important in this presentation. Thank you so much for being part of this wonderful moment. Today, I am Donald Vichas, and we shall be looking at the topic the proper switch, a tool for mental growth. Proper switch, a tool for mental growth. Like I earlier said, I am Donald Vichas having you for today's presentation, and let's move on to what our topic is all about. Remember, I said it's a proper switch, a tool for mental growth. A switch is a device that can be used to turn on an electric, for example, on and off. So being able to use a switch as an example for at today's presentation, you realize that there are moments in our life that we can actually practice a perfect switch in order to experience a particular growth in a particular domain. And for today's presentation, we shall be looking at that growth that has to do with your mental growth. So it is your ability to turn from negative thoughts or switch from negative thoughts to positive thoughts, and why not that of feelings, and of course negative people to positive people, those who inspire you, those who make you feel worthy. It is very common for us to always be in a mode, and most of the time, whenever we find ourselves in these various moods, it gets to control our attitude. And moods such as being jealous, being happy, being sad, being excited, being envious, these moods get to contribute to our attitude. So every moment you are living your life, you realize that one thing is being powered. What is the mood that is powering your attitude? So the moment you get to understand what mood you are feeling, you realize that your daily moods get to contribute to the outcome of your attitude, which becomes so important, as we shall be looking today at that proper switch, which means it is a switch from a particular mode to the other, a switch from a particular thought to the other, a switch from a particular feeling to the other. So as you are following, we shall be looking at those various ways. But before then, it is very important to note that at times these modes becomes consciously or unconsciously in ourselves, and it becomes important for us to be able to practice that proper switch, because moments such as challenging moments, such as difficulties, setbacks, gets to make us have a particular feeling or a particular thought at a particular moment, and having the mindset of a proper switch would become a tool for that mental growth, as we shall be looking at in our today's presentation. How to practice a proper switch. How can young people practice a proper switch in their lives, in their education, at that job site, as an employee, as a professional? How can you practice a proper switch? The first point that we shall be looking at is for you to identify the thoughts. If you don't identify the thoughts, I bet you it becomes difficult to actually know from which thoughts you are at the moment, which will help you in order to switch to the next thought. So each time you find yourself and you begin to have, the mind has positive and negative thoughts. Each time you have negative thoughts, you begin to feel like nothing is moving, especially during challenges. Like I said in the introduction, you realize that when you identify this particular thought, which is the negative thought, you become so intentional by practicing how you can actually shift from that negative thought to the positive thought. Of course, this is a process. So what do? You can actually learn how to practice meditation. You can actually look for quiet places where you can actually sit there. You think critically. And of course, one thing I always encourage is when you think, you have ideas, and during those moments of thinking or meditating, it's always good to have your journal and a pen. You get to write down possible solutions to your negative thoughts, which can enhance you switch to your positive thoughts. So for you to be able to grow your positive thoughts through the mental shift of identifying the negative thoughts, what I'm saying is you get to practice meditation, especially in a quiet environment, by making sure that you have a journal, that you are thinking critically, writing down possible solutions that has to do with those negative challenges, helping you to become more productive in your life and of course in your career, by bringing the best of your mental growth. The second point on how to practice a proper switch has to do with when you get to identify the emotions. How are you feeling after every moody situation? Remember, I said your moods becomes your attitude, and moods such as happiness, moods such as sadness get to contribute to the kind of attitudes that you portray at a particular moment. So when you identify a particular emotion, which of course during challenging moments will be that of negative emotions, that is when you realize that all the negative things that you get to feel, the sadness, the pain, the blaming, the hardship, the feeling of crying, it automatically, it voluntarily gets injected in your thoughts. It comes automatically. It comes without you necessarily controlling. But then as you become aware of that emotion, you get to practice the positive emotions by doing what? Constantly reminding yourself of how you can actually shift from that negative situation to the positive one. How do you do this? You consciously inject your positive emotions through self-affirmations. You tell yourself how happy you are, how grateful you are, how handsome you are, how beautiful you are, how intelligent you are. You get to inject these thoughts, these ideas, these emotions into your thoughts by being so conscious about it. Mind you, each time setbacks occur, it is a voluntary, it is an automatic way, it is an automatic attitude that these negative emotions come into you without you necessarily controlling it. But when you become aware of the fact that you need to practice a proper switch, you consciously inject the positive emotions into you. You tell yourself how happy you are, how smart you are. You affirm yourself, and this becomes the way you can actually shift from the negative emotions by instilling or injecting into you positive emotions. Looking at the third point on how to practice a proper switch, you get to identify your attitude. This attitude we shall be looking at you as a person. Do you belong to the class of those who always judge yourselves? Remember, the more you get to judge yourself, the more you get to blame, the more you get to complain, the more you get to shift the blames to others. You shift the responsibility of your own setbacks to others. Now, when you get to feel that you are in that attitude of judging yourself, you realize that you are being limited by your own self-beliefs. You judge yourself in relation to your background. You judge yourself in relation to the environment where you find yourself. But then, if you can identify the attitude that you are portraying as that of being judging yourself or limited self-belief, what do? You get to shift from that attitude by getting into the growth mindset. You choose the direction of continuous learning. You choose the mindset of accepting responsibility of the setbacks. You choose the mindset of being able to learn from your mistakes. You choose the mindset of constantly improving on yourself. You don't get to allow the judging attitude limit your ability to become who you want to be. So when you identify your attitude of being that of judging yourself, what you should do in order to practice a proper switch is for you to be able to focus on your growth mindset, which is that of being open to learning, being open to gain more opportunities from the mistakes that you find yourself. So the moment you get to practice this, you would be able to advance your mental growth. Remember, the topic is the proper switch, a tool for mental growth, and we have been looking at how you can actually shift your mindset, or how you can actually practice the proper switch. And we have been seeing how you can identify your thoughts, identify your feelings. Now we are looking at identifying your attitude. The last but not the least point, you get to identify what kind of information you consume. Negative information will always pollute the mind. Negative information will drain your mental ability, your mental capacity. It will drain you emotionally. So when you identify the kind of information you consume, you realize that not all TV stations or TV channels are permitted for you to watch. Not all radio stations are permitted for you to listen to. Not all social media platforms are allowed for you to be following. So you become so intentional about the kind of information that you want to follow, especially when you identify the kind of information you consume. You switch from those kind of informations into taking the responsibility of focusing on being intentional about the kind of information that you can actually consume that has to do with your area of interest. The moment you get to identify that the information your friends bring to you, for example, are not helping you to grow, and it pollutes your mind. Maybe you want to start up a new career and your friend discourages you. These are informations that get to pollute your mind. So you should be intentional about the kind of friends that you can actually bring in relation to your goals. What kind of friends you can actually accompany, who can actually accompany you on your path to success in that career or in your personal life. So when you identify this, then you become intentional. When you become intentional, it means that you have properly switched from the polluted information to that of being intentional about your own self. Conclusively, whenever you are faced with a setback, whenever you are faced with a challenges, which I know it's very painful, it may be painful and it can be painful. One thing that I can tell you is I'm here to encourage you. I'll always encourage young people. I always encourage my students to always be willing to make a switch. And you cannot actually make a switch when you don't identify the kind of thoughts, the kind of feelings, the kind of friends, the kind of information, the kind of things that holds you back, that you can actually shift or switch from those thoughts, which are of course negative or draining, into the more productive thoughts that can actually help you become much more better. The moment you identify how you can do this, one day at a time, one step at a time, 1 week at a time, you realize that you get to grow in that in becoming that person who actually creates an impact or make a change in your mental growth. And of course, the moment you get to secure your mental growth through constant meditation, you become so intentional about the kind of things that you do always that have to increase or improve on your personal life and on your career. Thank you so much, dear followers from my YouTube channel, for following this presentation at this hour, which comes up every week. And I'm so happy having you at my YouTube channel to follow presentations. I am Donald Vichas, your productivity strategist. We can always connect on WhatsApp through this contact. And I really plead kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel, as we will always stay in contact. And of course, we always upload weekly presentations, and you'll be the first to always follow. I am so grateful. Thank you for always being there. Like I earlier said, we can always connect on WhatsApp through the contact above. Thank you so much for always being there.